For those of you who've been following me by now, you should know that I refer to the major KPI called prime cost as the one number you must know to have any chance of making money in your restaurant. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Well, and I would also tell you, I'd recommend you watch this video to take a deeper dive into that calculation. Again, prime cost. Hey there, Restaurant Pro. This is Dave Scott Peters, restaurant expert, coach, and creator of the Restaurant Prosperity Formula. And today I'm going to talk about mastering prime cost, the key to profitability. Here's a quick review. Prime cost is your total cost of goods sold plus your total labor costs, including taxes, benefits, and insurance. You take that number divided by gross sales. Use divided by sales gives you your prime cost percentage. If you do at least $850,000 a year in gross sales annually or more, your prime cost target is 55% or under, not 65%. Not 65 that the old-time experts have been preaching for year after year after year. Well, that ship has sailed. Think about how your food costs have risen, how your labor cost has risen, how all the tech stack things we've added that dip into our pocket and take money away that we need to run our restaurants. And I mean need to run our restaurants. Think about how rents have gone up and interest rates have gone up and all these things. Well, 65% doesn't work anymore. You've got to be thinking 55. You've got to be running more efficiently in order for you to make money. Now, if your sales are lower than $850,000 a year, gross sales, your target's 60%. Make sure you keep that in mind. And as a reminder, it doesn't matter how you get to 55%. You could run a 25% cost of goods sold and 30% labor cost. Well, that's going to give you a 55% prime cost. You could run a 35% cost of goods sold and a 20% labor cost, and that's going to get you to a 55% prime cost, or any combination in between, higher food cost, poor cost, the like, total cost of goods sold, lower labor costs, vice versa. Heck, they could be dead even. Doesn't matter. See, I want to get a little real world with you here. There is no one-size-fits-all plan to achieve a 55% prime cost. I've been promoting this, talking about prime cost for 20 years now as a restaurant coach. And there's a lot that goes into how you get your restaurant to that target. There are a number of factors that go into deciding where you're going to be, how you're going to decide if your cost of goods sold is higher, your labor cost is higher, lower, whatever it may be. Things like where you're located, the style of service you offer, your restaurant's price point, the quality product you buy, your state's minimum wage, even your core values. These all go into saying, hey, where should your prime cost be? It's not going to be cookie cutter because you're not on the same restaurant. You're not the same restaurant on the same street corner in the same city, serving the same product, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Heck, I would even tell you that a concept that has multiple locations, depending on where they're located, are going to have different prime cost targets based on what the customers actually order, how they come in the door. The only way to get to a point where you know where your target should be is with a budget. You heard me, I've said that dirty word over and over again, a budget. Now, to learn more about budgeting, be sure to watch this video because it's one of those things you need a deeper dive, but I'm going through it quickly here. At this point in time, I've probably created or helped restaurant owners with well over 1,000 budgets by now, and that's probably conservative. Heck, again, I've been coaching restaurant owners for 20 years, and budgeting is critical. And here's some of the things that I talk about with my members when we go through this budgeting process. One, in today's day and age, your menu must be on the table. When it comes to becoming more profitable, you have to understand that with rising labor costs, rising costs, everywhere we look, the number one tool you have to reduce your prime cost, your cost of goods sold, your labor cost, all has to do with your menu. We cannot get married to those menu items. We have to be willing to put everything on the table. Heck, I've had a member who eliminated their top 3 items off their menu because it was too much prep. It was costing them too much money. They were actually firing their top customers because it couldn't be sustained to run a profitable restaurant. The only way to know that is budget. Now, number 2, you got to reduce your food cost and understand it's not just about raising prices. You've got to implement things like the waste tracker to stop dumbass mistakes on a daily basis, the key item tracker to count 5 to 15 items every shift to make sure they're not stolen. Implement a system I call the Restaurant Checkbook Guardian, where I give up ordering without giving up my checkbook. Hey, chef, kitchen manager, whoever, this is how much money you can spend. go over $500, you're fine. Go over $500 and one penny, you cannot place the order without finding me and asking for permission and telling me what you found went wrong, what you did to correct it. You got to have recipe costing cards. Recipe costing cards are critical because this allows us to create a file called a menu profitability monitor. Ideal food cost. That's a tool that I created. Now I'm going to tell you, when you find out what your ideal food cost is, when you tie it in with your product mix, and you say, let's say you come up with a 30% ideal food cost, no waste, no theft, no spoilage, perfect restaurant, which does not exist. Do you know that a typical restaurant runs 7 to 9 points above their ideal food cost? That means you're put yourself in a position where often the things that you do wrong in your business are really what's increasing your food costs. It's not your purveyor and the cost of the food. It's what you do with it. And then all of a sudden you're implementing time temp checklists, line checklists, portion controls, putting them on the line, prep systems, weekly inventories, and much, much more. And with that ideal food cost, we can menu engineer. We can actually place items in different places. We can reduce product costs. We can reduce portion sizes. We can change based on pictures in the menu and boxes and things like that, what the customers order, and actually engineer your menu to hit your target number. Now, when it comes to labor costs, reducing your labor costs isn't just about cutting hours. That's what I hear all too often. Oh my God, I'm going to have to lose people. I'm already short-staffed. Blah, 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 blah. It's not. Sometimes you have enough people, but you're using them incorrectly. It's about basically training, making sure your people are more efficient. That instead of needing 4 cooks on the line, I can do it with 3 because they're cross-trained from this section to that section. Each station is something that they know how to do, or at least more than the one they've started on. You've got to be reducing your labor costs by changing your prep. When you see that your menu is prep heavy and it's chewing up hours upon hours of prep, by changing that menu, we can reduce our labor cost. You got to make sure your line's set up properly, efficiently. Do I have to take 3 steps around 2 cooks in order to get to the bread that I need for my station? Or is everything set up the way it's supposed to be? That I have to pivot because 1, 2, 3 steps to finish one item on a routine basis could have one of your cooks walking miles. Whereas if they pivot from one section to another to grab items, they can be more efficient, reducing the amount of labor you need. You might, again, reduce the number of items you sell just in order to reduce how much workload there is on the line. And you can look at your dollars per labor hour work to find efficiency. This is where we find out through dollars per labor hour calculation, which I talk about on this channel, is finding how many dollars per hour each person produces. So for instance, if I produce $150 per labor hour worked in the kitchen and I've got 2 cooks on the line, in that hour, we'd bring in $300 in sales. Well, when we analyze that $150 and we go, hey, the average ticket per person, food only, is $25, and we divide that into that $150, we find that our kitchen's putting out 6 items or 6 customers worth of food every single hour is not pushing it. And so all of a sudden we start to look at our process. Do we bring people in at the same time, or should we be stagger starting? Do we simplify the process? Do we get on a Tuesday work with 2 cooks instead of 4 because we can handle it? You understand that all of a sudden looking at those efficiencies, it's not just cutting hours. It's about becoming more efficient. The key to mastering your profitability is through implementing systems to control your prime costs. That is clear. Again, I've been doing this for 20 years. I can tell you that is critical. And I will also tell you that if you want to jumpstart your quest to learning how you can master your prime cost, that's what I do. I want you to go to dsp.coach/apply-now. Put your information in there. Reach out to us. And I'm going to have Ryan James on my team reach out to you, learn more about you and your business, tell you what we do, see if there's a possible fit. And if there is a fit, where he's going to get you on a call with me, where I'm going to take an hour of your time, again, to learn more about your business. And on that call, I'm going to give you actionable items that you can put in place to change your world. Plus, if you're interested, I'll tell you a little bit about our group coaching program, and maybe Maybe I'll see you on a weekly Zoom call and we can change your world. Be sure to join me live every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, travel schedule permitting, where I'll get you pumped about the upcoming weekend, get you excited about crushing your goals and finding the motivation to be best you possible. Plus, I'll answer your burning questions live.